ready to brave the wild. With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Nice to be back on board once again today, as we only have 2 games to review, and the Wild end up getting a split, 3 out of 4 points. So that kind of is what it is. Very impressive victory over the Winnipeg Jets on Jan the 13th, and then I won't call it lackluster, kind of roller coaster in effort. I would say a roller coaster. You saw some nice surges, but frickin' Markstrom was incredible in the game. Markstrom, who'd been kind of off and on all season, good, not so good. And then, of course, the backup, Nilsson's been pretty bad, other than a really strong start at the beginning of the year, which shut out the Wild. But, of course, Markstrom just, stopping every little surge the Wild would have for the most part. I mean, the Wild would score 2 goals, but, man, there were some nice one-timers, some breakaways, this and that, Spurgeon, Stahl. But let's talk about the Winnipeg game. There was a point in this game where the Wild were outshooting the Winnipeg Jets 26-6. Or was it 27-6? I mean, regardless, very, very dominant by the Wild from the get-go, and it was a fun pleasure to watch. Saturday, the 13th of January, Minnesota 4, Winnipeg 1, as Winnipeg would drop into second place in the Central Division. It's been an ongoing battle between St. Louis, Nashville, and Winnipeg. There's a hot streak, cold streak, this and that. Winnipeg had been playing well, and of course, all 3 of them have been playing well. But an overall dominant game by the Minnesota Wild, and we'll take it anytime. Jason Zucker, chance after chance after chance after chance in this game, and then ultimately wound up getting rewarded with 1 goal. He would get another goal against Vancouver as well. Nice weekend for Jason Zucker. You're starting to see the guy we saw before, so it's definitely a shame to have the bye come. Hopefully it doesn't cool him off. It looked like Jason Zucker's just starting to get hot again, and that's really cool. You got the Koivu, Granlund, Zucker line back together, and they're playing great. They're playing very well. Spurgeon and Suter would hook up with Mikhail Granlund early. Well, I guess you could say midway through the first period, after the Wild were peppering the crap out of Hellebuck throughout the night. Incredible. 41 shots on goal, 37 saves, but I mean, I couldn't even imagine how many shots overall after all the blocks and stuff by Winnipeg, but great overall effort by the Minnesota Wild throughout the entire game. I mean, you can't really complain about anything in this one, other than a couple of bad passes by Brodin, some turnovers, this and that, a couple of breakaways, but Devin Dubnyk was lights out pretty much the entire night, other than Peral's goal, as Peral would score on the power play. One of those things. I mean, a nice pass by Blake Wheeler, 39th assist on the season, as Wheeler's usually known as a winger, but he's been playing center of late, and he's definitely been doing a hell of a job. Blake Wheeler even joined in the goal chances. Of course, this is the day before Minnesota versus New Orleans in the Minneapolis Miracle. Check out Purple Mafia to talk about that as we talk about that. Seventh Heaven, Minneapolis Miracle, whichever you want to call it. But it was nice to see Blake Wheeler even joining in the goal chant in a game that was already 4-1. But Blake Wheeler still showing that he's from, still showing some love for Minnesota, as obviously he is from here. And yeah, very cool to see guys over there doing the skull chant. Of course, Wild.com also had several members of the Minnesota Wild doing a skull chant on the ice at some point during the week. Very cool. With the smiles on their face, look like they're enjoying themselves very much. I like the smile on Chris Stewart's face, among many, many others out there, Jason Zucker and others. Jason Zucker's soon going to have the Raiders visiting his town, or no, not visiting, but taking over in that town. The Las Vegas Raiders will be starting up in about 2 years with Coach John Gruden, as long as he doesn't get fired before that. No, I don't think so. Not with a 10-year, $100 million contract. But yeah, Purple Mafia for that. Just an overall fun game. You saw that top line, second line. It's debatable what's the top line or the second line, but the Koivu line, you could say Koivu, Granlund, Zucker line. You've had Stahl and Ennis and Stahl, Ennis, Parise playing together at times. Sometimes you see Niederreiter, but of course Niederreiter not available right now, so Parise moves up to play with Stahl. Otherwise, you usually see Parise with Coyle and either Winnick or Foligno. It's kind of an up and down thing with that. Sometimes Winnick and Foligno are together. Sometimes Stewart's on the third line, Stewart's on the fourth line. So that's where you get interchangeable in the bottom six, this and that. But Parise's obviously in the 9. He kind of moves around in the 9, so to speak. But generally from 1 to 3, unless you consider Stahl's line the second line, which I do not, because Eric Stahl is definitely a top line center on this team, I would have to say. Matt Dumba would add 2 goals, some rifle shots. Charlie Coyle would have scoring chances throughout the night, but wound up with an assist at least on the Dumba goal. Matt Dumba, 2 goals in the game. Fun to watch overall, peppering Mr. Hellebuck throughout the night. Dumba with that rifle shot. Foligno with a Magic Johnson-like pass. And this one wasn't luck. This actually was skill. As you remember earlier in the season, I believe the pass ended up going to Zucker, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it was the power play or what it was. I can't remember exactly. This was like about 2 months ago or so, where Foligno, it looked like a spectacular pass, but it was just the puck bounced off his net off the backhand. The puck just got away, basically. He lost the puck. He just mishandled it, and it was a perfect pass by accident. But the nice one by Foligno. This was literally between the legs, behind the back, to Dumba. It was Magic Johnson-esque, spectacular, and Foligno would get another one, and Coyle also getting a couple assists in this one on both the Matt Dumba's goals. They were about 6-7 minutes apart, which helped bury the Winnipeg Jets. Hellebuck, Blake Wheeler, and the Winnipeg Jets in a wonderful, wonderful game. Again, where you heard the Skull chant as everyone's excited, and some people thought it was going to be a comfortable win by the Vikings. Some people thought it was scary as hell. I'm always scared no matter what at this point, and it was scary as hell, as we all know, and people going into the Vancouver game were witnessing the Minneapolis Miracle after fearing a horrible, depressing defeat after giving up 17 points and losing the game, which is where things were headed in that sense. But an overall very, very fun night against the Winnipeg Jets. The Wild, the effort, the just puck possession, put the puck on net, puck possession, puck on net, and it was awesome. The Vancouver game was sporadic. There was puck possession and there was no puck possession. The Wild started strong against Vancouver, and then things dropped considerably, and of course Markstrom was outstanding throughout the night. Winnipeg I just called him Winnipeg again. Vancouver just kind of hung in there throughout the game. Anytime the Wild would have some kind of surge, Vancouver would match it, and they'd improve off of it for the most part. Jason Zucker, again, power play goal off of Koivu, a really nice one there, I would have to say. Koivu and Granlund, again, the same line working together, and you're starting to see that chemistry. You're starting to see scoring again. I mean, bottom line, they're putting pucks in the back of the net again, and that's great. Zucker, 2 goals in 2 nights, 17 on the season now, power play. Jason Zucker trying to catch up to Eric Stahl, where Zucker was leading the team in goals throughout the season for quite a while there, and then he just completely stopped, and now you're seeing him starting to resurge again. Once Zucker got to about 14 goals, that was kind of it for the longest time. He threw in the 15 somewhere in there within about a month of drought there, threw in 1 goal, and then, of course, Zucker now 2 goals on the weekend and showing serious signs because he looked like he could have gotten 3 or 4 goals this weekend. I mean, he had some spectacular chances. Markstrom and Hellebuck making some nice saves. Markstrom especially, though, throughout this game. Very disappointing at the end of the day, but glad the Wild at least got 1 point out of it. Louis Eriksson was able to put one in past Dubnyk late in the first period. This was disappointing. I was a little surprised to see Dubnyk in the net both nights. Kind of surprising, but okay. But it's because he was so damn good against the Winnipeg Jets. So it was kind of like, why not? Markstrom, the Wild only wound up with 23 shots on goal, but a lot of them were pretty damn good, I'd have to say. I mean, they were good shots. It's just the lack of shots is what was disappointing because the puck was in the Wild zone a lot in that third period, and that's ultimately why the Wild lost this game, I'd have to say. Despite the fact the Wild were winning the game for a while, obviously, or at least tied with Vancouver throughout the second period. Some good chances here and there throughout the night for both teams. Again, more of a roller coaster type of a game in momentum. Daniel Winnick, absolute spectacular bang-bang play as the Wild would keep the puck in the Vancouver zone. Parise would free it, which was, again, one of those things that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but Parise working hard, freeing the puck. Stahl just literally let go of the puck, and it was released immediately by Winnick on a one-timer. 5th goal of the season. That was a goal-scoring play. Hardcore. I mean, it was fast. Bang, bang. I mean, it was like, wow. It was a flash, literally like a flash of lightning. Spectacular 19th assist for Eric Stahl. 5th goal of the season for Daniel Winnick. Nice, interesting to see those guys all together. But I suppose that's how it goes when Nito Niederreiter's out. Once again, as the lines shuffle around, you get some strange combinations, but sometimes things work, and it did. Daniel Winnick absolutely does possess a scoring ability in this league. It's just, you don't notice it, you don't think about it much, but every now and then it works out, and Winnick often is left open, and he was left open on this play. So, great. That was the last goal the Wild would score in the game. Extremely disappointing in the final 4 minutes or so. Vancouver just keeping the puck in the zone, making some nice passes, some smart passes. Jonas Brodin, again, giving up a play that was terrible earlier in the game a little bit. A terrible pass attempt to Matt Dumba that was picked off, but extremely nice poke check by Devin Dubnyk to save it there. Brodin did not have a good weekend, I would have to say. Lots of turnovers and out of position on occasion, but mostly the turnovers. He makes risky passes, and I still remember last year when Bruce Boudreau was talking to him on the sideline, or talking to him on the bench there, and you could read his lips. He'd be like, "You better watch with those bleeping passes." He dropped the F-bomb because that's what Bruce Boudreau does. He wasn't necessarily trying to be mean, obviously. Just, hey, man, so many times you see Jonas Brodin make centering-type passes that could get us killed. This one ended up being an odd-man rush, or pretty much just a breakaway. One-on-one with Devin Dubnyk, but Dubnyk came out of the net, poked it away early, and that saved the day. Dubnyk, awesome weekend, despite defeat in overtime. Brendan Sutter would ultimately bury that one, but of course, Thomas Vanek would end up deflecting a nice shot by Sam Gagner, putting the puck on net. I mean, that's what it's all about. As long as you can get it through, a nice screen by Thomas Vanek, which ultimately touched him and went in past Devin Dubnyk. No interference, none of that. So it was a good play by Thomas Vanek at the end of the day, and heartbreaking and frustrating for us here in St. Paul or Minneapolis or wherever we're from, but in the Twin Cities, a very frustrating finish there. Hate to see Thomas Vanek score, as we were all frustrated with him in the 2 years he was with the Wild, playing a bit more of a Parisi role with Vancouver, which he did not play here. It seemed like he was staying back quite a bit. Well, I mean, maybe Thomas Vanek should have been closer to the net more often with the Wild. And I don't know. I wish he was, but Vancouver's getting him to do it, I suppose. At least on this play, he was able to bury it. 13th goal of the season. Vanek is one of the leading scorers for the Vancouver Canucks. Louis Eriksson, another one of those veteran guys, former Dallas Star, former Boston Bruin before that. Eriksson, a guy who's capable of scoring 30 goals, but quieted big time the last couple of years, only 11 last year, and he's at 6 at this point this season. But he's still playing on the top line for the most part here. So it kind of is what it is there. Vanek and Gagner pretty much on the second line with the Vancouver Canucks, and then Sutter with a nice play, just a nice move. Nice to see Eriksson get another assist, I suppose, for him. He had a multi-point game, as did Alexander Edler in the overtime period, as the Wild would get some really nice attempts. Eric Stahl, breakaway Eric Stahl, one-timer. Jason Zucker, nice attempt. Spurgeon, awesome one-timer that would not get past frickin' Markstrom. And the next thing you know, the puck's going the other direction. Brandon Sutter kind of one-on-one with Devin Dubnyk. Kind of turns to the side, releases very quickly. Third goal of the season for Brandon Sutter would end up being the winner. Unfortunately, in overtime, the Vancouver Canucks would steal this one. Vancouver, about 3 games under 500, which in the NHL these days is terrible. Back in the old days, you could have a losing record and be in second place in your division, which is pretty crazy when you sit down and think about that. But nowadays, if you're even a little bit below 500, you're pretty much a terrible team in this league, for the most part, in terms of making the postseason. Vancouver's kind of hanging around, sort of. They're a long ways from the playoffs, but I suppose they're not necessarily terrible if they are near 500, so they do win games on occasion, and Markstrom will put in a nice one once in a while, when generally speaking he hasn't been that great. But an awesome game for Markstrom, I would have to say, at the end of the day. Even though he didn't face that many shots, they were pretty good shots. They were pretty good attempts in this game, so that's where I give the Wild some credit, that these were actually legitimate scoring chances. Again, Vancouver's defense is not that great, so that's part of it, but still, good effort in that sense. At least just wish the Wild could have the puck a little more, and then they could generate more and more of those good scoring chances. Maybe we would have won this one 4-2. Who knows? But it is what it is. The Wild lose. They take a point out of it. And, well, just 2 games to review this week, 3 games to preview. All Eastern Conference teams, starting with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ouch. Segment number 2. Let's pass out the awards for this show first, though. The Mike Modano Award for this episode is Jason Zucker. Awesome weekend. Really strong. Really back at it again. You're seeing the Jason Zucker we saw early in the season when he looked like a 35-40 goal scorer for the Wild. It looked like he was heading in that direction, but then naturally here comes the drought, and it just did not go away. But now we're starting to see Zucker again. You hope and pray that he can keep it going, because that looked really nice. After 5 days off, though, who knows what's going to happen? Or is it? Yeah, 5 days off. That's a long time. Very long by. The James Shepard Memorial's got to be Brodin. Some terrible turnovers, and he was a bit out of position at times. He did not have a good weekend last weekend. Hopefully the Wild and Brodin can get things a little bit more going here. Playing against Tampa Bay, I'm not sure what to say, but you're going to need Jason Zucker to do something against those Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's the hope there. And Mikael Granlund, ultimately, again, he wound up with assists in the game, but not with not with a goal in this one. Yeah, that goal was scored against Winnipeg instead. I always picked Granlund to score against Vancouver because of that hat trick last year. How fun was that? So we'll wrap things up for this segment. Come back for segment number 2. We're going to preview 3 games and catch up on those prospects. Kind of a fun week for some of those guys. Back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. We're going to preview 3 games against Tampa, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh. The first 2 at home, and then off to Pittsburgh we go, where the Wild have had some pretty incredible success the last several years against the Pittsburgh Penguins, with a couple of hiccups here and there, but pretty good. We wrap up the month of January. Only 4 games remaining. We're on the 20th, and only 4 games remaining in the final 10 days, 11 days actually, because there's the 31st of the month, all against Eastern Conference teams. Interesting. So a 4-day break after the Pittsburgh Penguins, where the Wild will head to Columbus, Ohio. Very light schedule this month. Extremely light schedule this month. At least, after the first week and a half or so, where the Wild played 5 games in a pretty short stretch there, in about 8 days. Pretty busy there. But, well, let's just keep moving here. The 20th of January, the Minnesota Wild host the Tampa Bay Lightning, the best team in the league in several statistics, or top 5, top whatever. They're top in goals, 4th in goals against, 3rd on the power play, 21st in penalty kill. So, okay, hopefully the Wild can get on the power play. There's a chance then, especially at home, where the Wild success rate is significantly better than on the road most of the season. Nikita Kucherov, one of the best scorers in the league. Steven Stamkos, definitely a nice year. Also, Kucherov with 61 points. Stamkos with 53 points. Even Braden Point in 3rd place, 40 points. That's ahead of every single player on the Minnesota Wild roster. Andrei Vasilevskiy, 6 shutouts on the season. That is crazy. Interesting to see the Boston Bruins really surging up this season, as they've really come around since last year. Boston Bruins actually missed the playoffs last year, as they were hanging around in the hunt all the way to the final week of the season, ultimately missing the playoffs. Vasilevskiy, 2.23 goals against average. Again, you continue to see why Ben Bishop is no longer on the Tampa Bay Lightning, as how mediocre the Lightning were last year, with Ben Bishop in the net most of the time. Vasilevskiy was excellent. Of course, Ben Bishop missed some significant time. Vasilevskiy was so good last year, or shall we just call him Andre V, since if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, that things will... They were so impressed with him, and obviously he was a prospect in their system anyway, and definitely emerged victorious in a huge way. Crazy things to talk about here when you think about the Lightning. They've lost 3 of their last 4, so interesting. Their furthest back one, 6-3 loss to Ottawa. It was on the road. 5-1 to Calgary. That was a butt kicking, as the Flames have been awesome the past 2 weeks or so. About an 8-game win streak now for the Calgary Flames. The Vegas Golden Knights, they continue to step up and to show what they can do. And those are the 2 best teams in the Pacific Division right now, to be quite honest. Vegas Golden Knights and Calgary Flames. Yes, the Calgary Flames. 5-1 in Tampa Bay. 4-1 in Tampa Bay in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. So Carolina running into, his Carolina's there too, Detroit and Carolina. Tampa Bay was able to score 5 goals in both of those games, 5-2 over Detroit, 5-4 over Carolina. So those are the 2 wins for Tampa Bay recently. But, wow, Calgary and Vegas, pretty impressive. Hopefully the Wild can get the job done now on the road. The Wild at home, of course. This is a road game for Tampa Bay, is what I'm trying to say. Can the Wild win this game? I guess. Tampa Bay's running into some trouble. Tampa Bay beat the Wild earlier this season. A pretty well-played game by the Wild, but Vasilevskiy was what he was. Outstanding throughout the night. Minnesota showed up to play, but Tampa Bay just the better team. It's just kind of what it was. It was a 3-0 game. It was 0-0 for the longest time. Stalock was very good in net, or was it Dubnyk? 3-0 ultimately for Tampa, as they were able to pull away. Tyler Johnson with Minnesota ties, able to get one of those goals, the second goal of the game. Unfortunately for the Wild, a shutout. And again, the season series wraps up tonight in Xcel Energy Center. Can the Wild get a split with Tampa Bay? I think they can, but if you're going to lose a game this week, this is the one, unfortunately, because most teams lose to Tampa Bay. I want to pick a win, but I probably can't because Tampa Bay is just that good right now. The Wild have been playing significantly better. I would not be surprised to see Minnesota beat Ottawa or Pittsburgh. It's kind of between this one and Pittsburgh, and I like the Wild success rate against Pittsburgh the last 4 or 5 years, and Pittsburgh has not been playing well. Tampa Bay on a downtrend. I mean, if the Wild come out of this 3-0, that would be spectacular. It's possible, but unlikely. I think the Wild are going to have a 2-1 week, though. They will not win this game, unfortunately, is my guess. I'm expecting a 3-2 type of game. Devin, Dubnyk, Vasilevsky, very strong throughout the night. Dubnyk, though, will get beat 3 times as ultimately Tampa Bay gets the job done. Maybe even go to overtime if the Wild could pull out a point in this game. That'd be pretty cool. But these scores, I think there's just too much talent on this Tampa Bay roster. I mean, you go down, all the way to Andrej Palat, and he's got 30 points. He's the 7th, or is it the 8th leading scorer? 8th leading scorer on the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's insane. The 8th leading scorer on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Third line center, he's got 30 points for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to see Charlie Coyle with 30 points right now? That's just not what's happening. And of course, Coyle missing time with injury, and he has had a nice season comparison to other years in the past. I think he's putting points on the board, getting assists, but Tampa Bay, just a great team, a really well put together team. Chris Kunitz, the former Pittsburgh Penguin, had some success there. He was one of those undrafted guys who really emerged nicely, but then now he's dropping off, and he's less and less necessary. Pretty much 4th line for the Tampa Bay Lightning, unfortunately for him. But hey, he's on a great team, and I'm sure he's enjoying himself, at least in that sense, because winning cures all, right? Chris Kunitz, a member of those Stanley Cup teams with Pittsburgh, at least one of them, a couple years back. Kucherov, again, boy, just outstanding, 27 goals on the season. Most likely guy to score for the Minnesota Wild against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going to say Eric Stahl. He knows them well. Obviously, he knows the Eastern Conference well in general. I like Eric Stahl against Florida teams for some reason. And it doesn't surprise me that I would think that way. Either Eric Stahl or Jason Zucker, I got to say, those are the 2 most likely guys to score against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but the Lightning win this one 3-2. Hopefully the Wild can squeak out a point, but not counting on that happening. Maybe it ends up being 4-2 with an empty netter by, who knows, it'll be Tyler Johnson or Kucherov or Stamkos, somebody like that, putting one into the empty net, making it a 4-2 victory in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we continue. Monday the 22nd, the Minnesota Wild will host the Ottawa Senators, and I've liked the Wild's success rate against this team over the last few years. Ottawa went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I think Tampa Bay is minimum going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. They'll replace Ottawa in that sense. Ottawa missed the playoffs, is going to miss the playoffs this year, and Tampa Bay did miss the playoffs last year, that type of thing. Boy, what a difference a year makes. Craig Anderson was so good, and this year he has not been good. Struggling big time. 3.21 goals against average. He has managed a couple of shutouts, but things not going well. Mike Condon even worse. Goals against about 3.5, and he's 3-5 on the season. No shutouts, of course. Save percentages under 90, or right at 90 in the case of Craig Anderson. Mark Stone's had a nice season, 42 points. He's been good. And Erik Karlsson, well, he's not putting the puck in the net, but he's helping others do it. Obviously, the best defenseman in the NHL overall, you got to say. His defense and, of course, capabilities of setting up others. 27 assists. Normally, you'd see about 9 or 10 goals from Karlsson by now, and that's one of the reasons why things aren't going so hot for the Ottawa Senators. One of the reasons. A lot of guys just aren't scoring. It's not the particularly high-scoring type of team. You have Dion Phaneuf, who's kind of always been a strange personality, and he's really dropped off over the years. He's getting older, and he's not the same guy anymore. You barely even know he exists. I mean, I almost forgot about him. Literally, 13 points in 41 games for him. Matt Duchene, that trade has not worked out at all for the Ottawa Senators, at least not right now. He's missed time, and the time he's been there, he's got 13 points in only 29 games. Just not what the Ottawa Senators were hoping. Turris definitely the better player out of the 2 at this moment, but again, you get other pieces involved in the trade. Guys like Johnny Adudia, he's just way past his prime, way up there in years. Obviously more of a stay-at-home type of guy, but he's not been the same player for the Ottawa Senators as he was for Dallas and Chicago years ago. It's not a team that scares you a whole lot. The guy that always seems to score against Minnesota is Mike Hoffman. Every single time the Wild play against the Ottawa Senators, Mike Hoffman finds the bottom of the net, and he will again. Most likely guy to score in this one, we'll go with Dumba. I always like what Dumba does against Ottawa, but also don't be surprised to see somebody like a Granlund put one in the bottom of the net. But I'll go with Dumba for this. Minnesota's going to win this one. Final score, 4-1, 4-2, something like that. 4-1, 4-2, I think, without the empty netter. They'll just win it 4-1, 4-2, something like that. Dumba will score, and I do expect Mike Hoffman to score. And hope he's surprised to see Carlson get his 4th goal of the year, just because that's how it goes. Surprisingly, though, Ottawa 3 out of their last 5, so not bad, but including an 8-2 loss against Chicago at home. Ouch, in Ottawa. Ouch. But again, the win over Tampa, win over San Jose, win over Toronto. Those are some pretty big wins there. And then most recently, 4-1 loss against the St. Louis Blues at home for Ottawa Senators. The Senators will host the Toronto Maple Leafs before heading to Minnesota. They will host the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, as the Wild will also host the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. Minnesota wins 4-2, so we move on again as quick as humanly possible, or as much as I'd like to do that. The Pittsburgh Penguins, oh boy. Yeah, well, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions, top power play in the league, 10th in the penalty kill. Ottawa was in the low 20s and just about, or the upper 20s, pardon me, in about every category. So, awful season for the Ottawa Senators. Where the Pittsburgh Penguins have struggled during this season is goaltending in a big way and penalty minutes. They've really been struggling throughout the season in that case. But I suppose, actually, no, it's a lack of penalty minutes, so that's a good thing. I'm looking at it the wrong way. My apology. Tristan Jarry has been okay. He's been the main guy in net of late at times. He's had, as Matt Murray's been struggling, he's missed some games, and yeah, Tristan Jarry, even Antti Niemi's been in net a couple nights. Boy, Antti Niemi, he just goes all over the league, and his goals against average is putrid. 7.5 in 3 games with the Penguins, all losses, all recorded as losses. Jerry's been respectable in the time he's been out there. Tristan Jarry, 2.44 goals against average, 2 shutouts in that time in the 16 games he started for the Penguins. Matt Murray in the 28 games he started, he's been pulled 3 times this season. Almost 3 goals against for the year, save percentage just above 90. So Jerry's been the better guy of late. And of course, Marc-Andre Fleury's been outstanding for the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, who saw that? I mean, Matt Murray, who helped the Penguins win 2 Stanley Cups and was phenomenal, especially in the first one. And Marc-Andre Fleury, who was terrible for the Penguins for a long time. He'd always let them down in the playoffs, and he was mediocre during the regular season. Goes to Vegas. He's just incredible in the time he's in there. Of course, he missed a significant amount of time with Mr. Stepan's younger brother, Malcolm Stepan, in net, and doing a damn good job for the Vegas Golden Knights, except in Xcel Energy Center, which we appreciate very much. He did not have a particularly good game that night, but he has been really strong for the Vegas Golden Knights, who are just continuing to rock and roll in that Western Conference. Penguins Knights, Stanley Cup Finals, baby. No, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to three-peat. I picked it at the beginning of the year. Edmonton and Pittsburgh, I thought, or maybe a changing of the guard where Edmonton would take it away. Pittsburgh is probably going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to do much. And if they do, I'd be kind of annoyed. I'm tired of Pittsburgh. As for the Edmonton Oilers, forget it. Forget about it. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton, basically my expectations coming into the season, just turn that thing around, and there it is. I mean, I thought Edmonton was going to be first place in the West, or at least second seed, whatever it is. And Vegas would be down there, just okay, just some okay games here and there, but generally speaking, not a playoff team. But, wow, Golden Knights, I mean, they deserve a ton of respect. They really do. Metropolitan Division has been very strong throughout the years. Even Carolina, who's in last place, is 3 games above 500. I mean, you look back at old NHL standings, and you see second-place teams that are 7-8 games under 500, maybe even 11 games under 500, second place. And then you look at these standings, and you see Carolina 3 games above 500, and they're in last. I mean, Carolina would be definitely a playoff team back in the old days, easily. The New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, all playoff teams they would be. Now, I guess not. Pittsburgh is just hanging by a tendon right now, literally. Rangers, same thing, but then you get Columbus. So it's definitely a logjam there. They're a division leader, only 2 points above the Pittsburgh Penguins. So things can change very quickly as we all know, things can change very quickly. But then again, if you have a 7-8 point deficit, it's hard to catch up because teams tend to parallel each other in that situation. Let's get to the point here. My God, I'm going all over the place, but I enjoy talking about hockey. And I enjoy talking about just looking at the whole situation throughout the league. Phil Kessel is leading the club in scoring, a guy who definitely had chemistry issues in Toronto and Boston over the years. It's worked out nicely in Pittsburgh over this season, or over the last 3 anyway. Jake Guentzel, well, he started really strong. He's not been as good. He's definitely been in a drought a bit. He does have 14 goals in the year, though, to be fair. 24 total points. He's extremely young, so he's got his whole career ahead of him. And, of course, I got to think he's been shuffled in the lines a bit. Sidney Crosby, and, of course, again, he's not going to be the recipient of every pass either when you have guys like Crosby, Malkin, Kessel on this roster. Kessel's been outstanding. He's even been on the third line in the past. He's been unbelievable. One of the best players in the league the past 2 or 3 seasons here. Sidney Crosby looked on as the top player in the NHL still to this day. 50 points on the year. Kessel 54. 21 goals to go with that. Malkin also 21 goals, tied with Kessel for the team lead. 49 points there, and then you drop off to Holmquist. Letang, who obviously is one of the top defensemen on the planet. Him missing time last year hurt the Penguins, but not enough. They ended up winning it all anyway. So, that just kind of was the case there. But certainly a drop-off. You're still seeing the scoring, but the goaltending is not what it was. That's why Pittsburgh has not been the same. But they have won 4 out of their last 5. And like I just mentioned, they are breathing down the neck of teams like Columbus and such. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things change the next month or so with Pittsburgh, as they are starting to wake up a little bit. The blood's starting to flow again. The electricity is starting to go through the wires here with the Pittsburgh Penguins. 4 of their last 5, only a 5-3 loss to Anaheim on the road on the first of a back-to-back. 3-1 victory the next night over the Kings of Los Angeles. 6-5 over Boston, 4-1 over Detroit, and 5-2 over the New York Rangers, who've definitely been a playoff nemesis over the years, but Pittsburgh has definitely owned them for pretty much forever, for the most part. I've liked the Wild's success against this team. Even when Pittsburgh is the best team on the planet, for some strange reason, the Wild always play well against this team, and Bruce Boudreau's record against Pittsburgh has been really good as well, so I'm going to pick a win. And again, it's going to be a higher scoring type of thing, like 5-3. I think Minnesota will win the game. I expect some type of a multi-goal game from a Jason Zucker. I have a feeling it's going to be something like that. Zucker's going to have multiple goals in this game. We'll go with 2 goals for Jason Zucker. The Wild win 5-3. Eric Stahl possibly jumping in. Mikhail Granlund. Maybe Koivu Parise scores his first goal of the season. I'm going to pick Zach Parise to score his first goal of the season against the Pittsburgh Penguins, but Zucker's going to have a multi-goal game against the Penguins. I just got that feeling in the back of my mind. So that's the case. 5-3 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Minnesota winds up 2-1 over the course of the week, as you're going to see improved play continue this week. So now let's check into those prospects. And as always, we open things with the Iowa Wild. Sam Anas continuing to lead the club in scoring. He had a point streak end last night, unfortunately. Another 6-game point streak for Sam Anas. He's been outstanding for the Iowa Wild as he continues to emerge. A lot of people hoping that he will get a crack at the NHL at some point this season, but at this stage, I think somebody else would have to have gotten hurt. Sam Anas, a right winger in the NHL level, or at any level, he would be a right winger. So at this point, well, let's just try not to think of people getting hurt at the NHL roster. But one of these days, I think Sam Anas will skate for the Wild. Justin Kloos, don't be surprised to see him as the 4th line center for the Wild, as he's been centering a line with Sam Anas and Gerald Mayhew, who's kind of like a fan favorite type of guy. Nothing spectacular. 24 years old, out of Wyandotte, Michigan. Kind of an entertaining personality. Not really the big scorer, kind of just the worker to go along with the higher scoring Justin Kloos and Sam Anas. But it's a fun line. He's like the Daniel Winnick, I guess you could say, in that sense. 30 points for Justin Kloos up there again. Kyle Rao continuing to do a solid job as well. Left winger for Iowa, 21 points on the season. Zach Mitchell starting to score again, as he'd been quiet in his return to Iowa. but he's starting to kind of get back in the swing of things there. The right winger, Zach Mitchell, who can play center as well. Center and right wing. 19 points in the 18 games he's played down there, as he's definitely emerged nicely. Ryan Murphy adding a couple assists the past week. 17 points on the season, 16 of those assists. Brendan Mennel added his 5th goal, and he also had an assist in a previous game. 16 points on the year, but the 5th goal of the season, that was some nice little skill by Brendan Mennel, kind of making a move and kind of doing the little Brett Hull type of a fall down release on the play. If you remember how Brett Hull would do that, how he'd literally go down in his release on a very strong wrister shot, and he finished against the Chicago Wolves. That was a really nice shot. 5th goal of the season, 16 points total. Like the guy's future, he does remind me of Jared Spurgeon a bit. He does. Mario Lucia also helped assist. He had a helper on Pavel Genis. Pavel Genis is now a member of the Iowa Wild, as he has moved up the ranks. Pavel Genis is now up the ranks, and I'm now pronouncing it correctly. He goes up from the ECHL to the Iowa Wild, back to the AHL, as he had a cup of coffee with the AHL about 2 years ago. Did not have the best run. Went down to the ECHL, struggled last year, started much stronger this year, and continued to get better and better and better. Even had a nice little point streak for the ECHL's Rapid City Rush, who have not been having the best season. Pavel Genis definitely emerging nicely, as he did score a goal on the assist from Mario Lucia, the third line there, you could say, for the Iowa Wild. Very strong performance, though. Nice to see Pavel Genis getting going right away there for Iowa. He's still 21 years old, from the Czech Republic, and yeah, he's got a chance. Pavel Burnett definitely talked about him not too long ago in our most recent conversation. We had a pleasant conversation about Pavel Genis, as he felt bad thinking that, he's stuck in the ECHL, he's going to have a hard time making it to the NHL, and now, maybe, pretty much ever since that conversation, Pavel Genis emerged. Who knows? Maybe he listened to this show. I mean, who knows? I doubt it, but I don't know. Maybe. Another guy that struggled, who was a late-round pick a few years back, is Chase Lang. He struggled big time for the Iowa Wild. Only 2 assists in the 20 games he's been out there. 4th-line right winger for Iowa. That's pretty much what he's been relegated to. He's now in the ECHL, and he's doing okay in minimal amount of time. We'll cut back to that in a second. In fact, we can jump into that right now. He's at 3 points for the Rapid City Rush, so he's doing a little better. He's already scoring more for that team. So 2 goals and 1 assist. He started strong with the ECHL's Rapid City Rush, but since then, kind of in and out. He's been quiet most of the time, but putting some shots on net, so at least he's doing something. He's trying to generate something, and we'll see what happens. Chase Lang, 6th-round pick in 2014, so he's still, got some time. He's also 21 years old, a la Pavel Genis. So some of those late-round picks, you really like what Doug Risebrough could do with these late-round picks, as some of them have been very interesting over the years. Luke Cunnin, again, no points this past week. He's just not generating a whole lot of offense. He had a nice run for a little while, as he's up to 12 points on the season total, but the past couple weeks here, nothing, and that's unfortunate. Lucia's at 13 points on the season, as he did get his 7th assist on Mr. Genis's goal there. So now we're going to look at some of the others. Oh, quickly, nice goal by by Nick Seeler, his first goal in the professional level. Of course, he was a collegiate player, but now he got his first goal. He's at 8 points on the season. That was actually a pretty good, powerful shot. I liked what I saw to Nick Seeler. Mr. Soucy also adding his 6th assist and his 7th point of the season last night. It's Carson Soucy now, 7 points on the season, as he continues to, he's getting something done offensively, generally more of a stay-at-home, powerful left shot defenseman for the Iowa Wild. It's hopefully someday, again, left shot defenseman for the Minnesota Wild. As now we like to bounce into some of the other prospects, either European and others. Ivan Lodniak had a point streak that was going on forever. He's quieted down a bit, unfortunately, but it's just for a short time. He had some big games late last week, though, since this last show. But just recently, the last 2 games for the Erie Otters, they were shut out last night. 50 points for Lodniak, 31 of those assists, 19 goals for Lodniak, the most recent draft pick. Nick Swaney, unfortunately, who's been fantastic for the Duluth Bulldogs. He's missed the past couple of weeks with the undisclosed injury. So whatever that means, 12 points, stuck at 12 points in the 15 games he's been out there. Again, pretty good start to his collegiate career with the Bulldogs, and a team that's not been doing so hot, unfortunately. Can't imagine that's helped the Bulldogs, missing out on Swaney. the right winger there, Nick Sweeney, out of Lakeville, Minnesota. Really liked what he's done for the Bulldogs so far. Andrei Svetlikov, the third Russian in a row in the draft the past 3 years, 17 points in 36 games for CSK Moscow. Check in on Dmitry Sokolov again, who's now on the Barrie Colts, no longer on the Sudbury Wolves. He was moved away, and he's been getting 2 points in every single game so far for the Barrie Colts. He even added a 3-point game. He's now at 8 in 5 games. 8 points in 5 games with the Barrie Colts, and overall 46 points in 40 games at the OHL level so far this season. He is now emerging nicely, as he was struggling a bit. Sudbury just struggles in general. He's putting in more of a playmaking game now than he had before, still scoring at a super high clip, but over the last couple of years there, it was like he would get like 50 goals and 12 assists. I mean, that's way too one-sided, so he's adding a bit more of a team game and continuing to score now as he's continuing to adjust and get better, adjust his game a little bit and improve. Jordan Greenway of Boston University, a lot of people like here in the Wild system overall. For Boston University, added his 11th assist last night. He's now on 19 points on the season for a Boston University team that is also struggling a bit. So Jack Sadik not registering any points on the season last night as the Gophers played Michigan State, barely beat them. Sadik still at 7 points in 27 games now for the Golden Gophers. The only Golden Gopher in the Wild system at this stage. Belpedio of Miami University. Don't believe he played. Yep, he's at 20 points in 22 games. Belpedio continuing to really stand up. But nope, the Miami University did not play last night. But 20 points in 22 games. Belpedio, top scoring defenseman, right shot defenseman for the Miami Redhawks. Boy, Miami of Ohio anyway, Redhawks, as he continues to show what he can do. Avery Peterson hasn't scored or registered an assist in I don't know how long, so I don't know. He's definitely dropped off, and he's in his senior year for the Duluth Bulldogs. So that's pretty much, I gotta say, most of the guys in the system that you might want to really talk about at this point. Jacob Golden at 5 assists so far for the London Knights. Did not add another one this past week. Other than that, Brandon Duhaime I believe he got an assist recently. He's now at 16. Yeah, 16 points in the season for Providence. 5 goals, 11 assists for Providence College. The left wing forward. Yep, he would be a left wing, of course, in the Wild system later on. As right now he's in his sophomore year for Providence. Again, national champions about 3 years ago in the NCAA. So that pretty much should wrap up the look at the prospects. Now I'm going to encourage you to join the Twitter account at Brave the Wild. At Brave the Wild. Want to thank Hockey Podcasts for always retweeting the show and sharing it out there. Thank you very much. Vince Germano also out of Australia retweeting the show. Thank you guys very much for helping other listeners find this show. Facebook, well, let's start off with the Brave the Wild Facebook page, facebook.com/Brave the Wild, facebook.com/Brave the Wild. Do give that a like, join the page, and jump into the conversation. Would be greatly appreciated. Also going to give a shout out to another page that I'm an admin for, of course, facebook.com/MNW Players, facebook.com/MNW Players. They cover everything from Gerald Mayhew, no, maybe not quite at that level, but because he's probably not going to be in the NHL, but we'll say Mario Lucia, Pavel Ginis, all the way up to Eric Stahl, if you get the idea. All the prospects, all the way up to the top line of the Minnesota Wild. Anything involving the Minnesota Wild, guys that have a future with the team and guys that are already on the team. Fun conversation on that page. Good coverage by Paul Burnett and Merrick Skyba. Thank you again very much, guys, for having me as an admin on the Facebook page. Of course, they have an actual webpage, mnwplayers.com. So, again, thank you. Please give that a like, if you could, on Facebook. Please give Brave the Wild a positive rating on iTunes or Stitcher. It would be greatly appreciated. And when I do see it, I will mention you on air and give you a big, giant thank you very much. So you will hear your name on air. Also, you can get on the show with an audio submission or a call-in. We'll start off with the phone line. It is 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention which show you're calling into, which is, of course, the Brave the Wild podcast, or Brave the Wild. Do your statement, shout-out, comment, question. Leave your name and town, like I'm Jack from from Des Moines, Iowa, or Ames, Iowa, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, Golden Valley, Minnesota, whatever it is. It's just, it's just nice to know who you are, where you're from. No one's going to stalk you. There's no reason to, and there's no way to anyway. So if somebody was that crazy. So, yeah, just join in the conversation. The other way to get in, of course, the Call Now button on the Facebook page. It goes to the same phone number through Facebook Messenger, which is, of course, free, regardless of where you're from in the whole planet. As long as you have some type of internet connection, you'll be fine, ready to rock and roll there. And then the final way to get on board that way is audio submission, the audio submission route, where you use the free voice recorder on your application, the free voice recording application on your smart device is what I'm trying to say. Treat it like a phone call, save it, and email it to paladinolive.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. All this information will be in the show description, and that way you can use it to copy and paste and send it to me, and then I will convert it into an MP3 file if need be on zamzar.com and rock and roll. So there it is. That should pretty much wrap things up here. Want to thank all of you for listening. Please do tell your friends about the show if you could. Thank you again for joining, and we will hope for a winning record this week. I think the Wild can get this done. I like the way the Wild have been playing the last few games. Just unfortunate things slipped away from us late against Vancouver. That was really frustrating, but luckily the Wild at least got a point out of it at the very least. You gotta get what you can, right? Hopefully the prospects continue to emerge nicely, as some of them really have been coming around, whereas others continue to struggle or have quieted of late. So with that, we'll bid adieu, and we'll talk to you again next week.